To the point on working potentially or not across the aisle, I've got Rose Cuison Villazor. She's an immigration law professor at Rutgers, and it's interesting. I want your thoughts on what we just heard from the president, and I know you do so much work on this, but hearing from the president's ally and Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who also put forth his own immigration bill, he has even said, really, this is all about uniting Republicans. And less about it becoming law. So my question is, well, what then is the point?
I think the best way to describe what's going on here, based on the president's perspective and Senator Graham's perspective, is that this is really about a political move. The election's coming up, and there are proposals here that are designed to address the base of these two different political leaders. It's not really getting to the heart of the problem within immigration law.
What is it?
We have a broken immigration system. We don't have enough visas available to address the people who should be coming here. Even along family-based immigration, we've heard quite enough about chain migration, but really, in fact, we still have a number of people who have been waiting for years to come to the United States, 18 to 20 years to be reunited with their families. That, to me, is broken. If the true value within America, within the United States, is to protect families, to maintain the integrity of families, then we should do something about that. Our immigration system should unite families the way that it was supposed to be designed.
Speaking of families, Caitlin Dickerson, you and I have spoken many times about your trips to the border, to visit these families, to see these detention centers. And I just think it's through all of this today, I would be remiss not to point out that today we have learned since December a fourth Guatemalan child has died in U.S. custody after a border apprehension. And listening to the president today, did you hear anything from the president that addresses the conditions of these folks on the border who have been taken into custody?
We didn't. I think what this plan really doesn't address, and what the president didn't address, was asylum. And we know the vast majority of people thousands of people who are sitting on the border right now waiting to enter the United States are coming to seek asylum. The 2.5-year-old boy from Guatemala very likely was in that same process and seems to have died from some form of pneumonia. What we've learned is that asylum seekers, they continue to come. There are more and more children coming, and we know now that children require very specific medical care, that it can be really hard to diagnose them, and that they can go from being stable to unstable very quickly. Really, only people with pediatric training can observe something like that. And so the DHS secretary, the Homeland Security secretary, has warned that we would see more deaths, and now we have. And so I think it's probably confusing to people why the administration seems to be not facing head-on this very real problem.
Did you want to add to that, Rose?
I think that's absolutely right. There is a crisis. We do have a crisis at the border, and the crisis is the way that we are treating families and the way that we are treating children. It's unacceptable that children are dying under our jurisdiction. Something must be addressed about that.
Dana, close this out. Final thought from you.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
Because yes, the president gave it a new proposal today, starting the discussion in a new way. But he's doing that while this crisis, and it is a crisis going on, is so white hot, and it is not being solved, and it needs presidential leadership to get Republicans and Democrats together to come up with a plan to stop what really is horrific with people, smugglers and human traffickers bringing children across the border, convincing families to bring them across the border and get them into this country, and this country being completely ill-equipped, both in terms of facilities and the legal situation, the process and the laws on the books to deal with it. And there are people willing to find a way in Congress, but presidential leadership, all of them say, is needed, and he didn't talk about that very much. He mentioned Senator Graham's bill, but it's going to take a whole lot more than that.
Dana and Caitlin and Rose, ladies, thank you so much.